tried to have a conversation with somebody and all they were giving you was one word answers? Frustrating, isn't it? Well, I want to give you the secret of how you can have a great conversation with someone that you love, your spouse, one of your kids, a friend, parent even, and this is really going to help you. Hi, my name is Kelly, and I'm a pastor, police chaplain, and marriage coach. So here's the secret, here's the key, how to have great conversations and to avoid the one-word answers. You know what I mean by the one-word answers. You know, your son come home from school, you pick him up after school, it's like, hey, how was school today? And what does he say? Fine. Okay, now what? Now where do you go? So here's the secret. It's learning how to ask open-ended questions, powerful questions, questions that will open up the person's experience and get them talking to you. So let me give you some examples of what open-ended questions are. First off, what is a closed-ended question? A closed-ended question is anything that could be answered with one word. How was your day? Fine. It's warm today, isn't it? Yes. Okay, now what? Now what do you say? All right. Let me see. What's your favorite subject in school? History. How's your coworker doing? Fine. Okay, now what happens after all of those closed-ended questions? Okay, did you do this or this or this? Or did you forget this? And the answer is yes or the answer is no. So here are some examples of some powerful open-ended questions that will let you have a great conversation with someone you love. Question number one, instead of asking, how was your day when someone comes home from work? Tell me about your day. Wow, tell me about your day. What a great question. And then as they start talking about things, you could do a follow-up question, which would be, what happened next? Or tell me more about. Or if you're confused about something they're talking about, that there's a procedure or something going on at work that you're not familiar with, hey, tell me more about that. How does that work? And then a great question to use after they describe what happened at their day and they're telling you the story of their day, ask, how did that make you feel? How did that make you feel? And then maybe you've exhausted things about what happened during the day and you've had a great conversation about that. Here's some other great questions. What is something that I can do tomorrow that will make your day better? Whoa, that's a great question. Or how about this? What are some of the stresses that you're currently facing and dealing with? What are some things in your life that are stressing you out right now? And then what is it about? And then you pick one of them. What is it about that situation that is causing you stress? How can I help? Tell me how I can help. And then another great line of questions could be, hey, how do you think our marriage is doing? How's our connection? One of the things I've taught you guys before is that marriages and relationships are like dimmer switches, in that life turns them down. And sometimes you don't realize that they've gradually diminished in its strength and context or content and connection. And so, hey, how are we doing? On a scale of 1 to 10, are we at a 10? Or maybe we're at a 4 or a 3 or a 7 or an 8, So those are great questions. And then here's a couple more that you could also ask. Is there something you'd like to see more of in our marriage? Is there something you'd like to see more of in our marriage? Or the opposite of that is there something you'd like to see less of in our marriage? Yeah, I don't want to see your shoes on the middle of the bedroom floor. Okay, well, you bet. Yeah, but you asked the question and you gave the person you love, you gave your husband or your wife or your son or your daughter or even your mom and dad an opportunity to share something they'd like to see more of or something they'd like to see less of. So these are great questions that are going to open up some great conversations in your relationships. So here's a few do's and don'ts before I let you go today and in this video. Set aside time and be mentally prepared for a longer conversation if you ask an open-ended question. See, if you ask an open-ended question, be prepared for a longer answer. You don't want the one-word answer, so be prepared that it may take, 5 minutes for them to answer that question, or maybe even longer, maybe 10, 15, 20, maybe even a half an hour. So if you're like looking at your watch like, uh-oh, this is longer than I thought it would be, well, maybe wait until you have adequate time. Another do listen generously. Make eye contact and respond non-verbally, or maybe with those subtle verbal cues like, wow, oh, that's interesting, man, oh my goodness. So you want to respond, listen generously, pay attention, and then give some kind of verbal or nonverbal feedback that you really are listening. Another do is do wait until your spouse finishes to ask a follow-up question. So you want to wait until they're done talking and telling you that part of the story before you ask them something like, tell me more, or what happened next. And then, of course, going along with that is simply, do be genuinely curious and seek to understand your spouse's world. That's another great do. Do be genuinely curious and seek to understand. So tell me more. How does that work? What is it like to work in that kind of situation or environment? Even if you think you understand what their job is, you probably don't. So asking questions about that is a great way to step into your spouse's world. Do be empathetic and seek to understand and validate your spouse's feelings. So if you say, how did that make you feel? Well, I felt insecure. I felt afraid. I felt worried. Don't invalidate that with a judgment statement, but instead validate that and seek to understand. And empathy is simply just stepping in their shoes and trying to feel what that person feels. So a great way to do that is that if they felt insecure and afraid, then you could kind of identify with that and you go, I think I'd feel insecure and a bit afraid or worried too if that happened to me. See, what that does, it shows you're empathizing and validating. So here's a few don'ts. Don't use the word why. Okay? Unless you're talking about somebody else, like why did they do that? But especially don't use the word why as in why did you do that? And the reason we don't want to use the word why is because it implies judgment. It implies that there's something good or bad about what that person did or said or felt. And you don't want to imply that or to get caught up in that. You're not there to judge. You're not there to interrogate. You're not there to evaluate even. You're just there to understand and to connect with each other by having a great conversation and find out what happened. So don't use the word why. Unless it's in a non-judgmental way. And there are a couple of occasions, like, well, why do you think your boss asked you that question? Or, why do you think, this is happening? Maybe, that might not be a good one either. Anyways, be careful in using the word why. And we've already talked about waiting until they finish. So another don't is don't interrupt. Listen, focus. Don't interrupt. Even if they pause, give them some time. Be comfortable with silence. Another thing is don't start talking about yourself or your day until they're done talking about theirs. And going along with that is don't start telling a story about something that happened to you that might have been similar. Okay? Remember, it's not your turn. You are asking your husband or your wife about their day and their experience. So you don't want to say, oh man, you know what? I had something like that happen to me. Here's what I did about it. No, it's not your turn. And if you do start talking about that, what you've just done is that you have shut down the other person and their conversation, their communication to you. And then last but not least, the other don't that I really highly want you to remember, and that's why I put it last, is this. Don't try to fix or give advice. Don't try to fix or give advice unless your husband or wife asks you. And if they're not asking, then that's not your job. Okay? You just want to be there to support, encourage, but mostly what you want to be there to do is listen and understand. So, hey, I hope this helps. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think of these suggestions about how to have ask open-ended questions and how to have better conversations. I'm a marriage coach, and so if you need some coaching to help your marriage really become everything that you want it to be and what God wants it to be, please reach out to me. I'd love to have a free discovery call with you, and we can talk about what coaching might do for you and how it could really help. All right, that's it for now. God bless.